Ah, fuck.
Oops, microphone's on.
Yeah, it's off now. Martin's going to try and reconnect. But it looks like we have quorum. Leisha, are we ready to go?
Yes, Chair Dobreen, you are good to start whenever you're ready.
Okay. Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Committee of Adjustment meeting of August 28th, 2024. I'll call the meeting to order. My name is Barbara Dobreen, and I'm the chairperson of the Committee of Adjustment. It is now 9:01 a.m. The committee members include members of council. However, we sit at this table as the Committee of Adjustment and not as members of council. Our jurisdiction lies solely with matters and consents and minor variance applications. The secretary of this committee is Alicia Milne. This is a hearing to consider applications for minor variances and consents within the Township of Southgate and is held under the provisions of the Planning Act 1990. The hearing will be in accordance with the Provincial Planning Act, the Municipal Act, and the Township of Southgate Official Plan. Can I get confirmation of the agenda, please? A mover and seconder. Monica? I need video so that I can see hands, or you'll need to unmute members of the Committee of Adjustment. Joan, will you second it?
Yes, I don't know what happened to my video. It just went, yes.
No problem, thank you. Sorry, and I didn't see Brian. I'm sorry if I missed your hand. I was so focused on trying to see everyone on my screen.
That's okay. I guess we got lots to do today, so I'll have another chance, I'm sure.
I'm sure, thank you. So be it resolved that the committee confirm the agenda as presented. Any opposed? I see no hands, that is carried. Declaration of pecuniary interest. Seeing and hearing none, I'll remind the committee that we can declare it at any time should something arise. Adoption of the minutes. May I get a mover and seconder for the minutes from the previous meeting? Monica and Brian. Be it resolved that the committee approve the minutes from the June 26, 2024 meeting as presented. Any errors or omissions? Any discussion? Any opposed? Seeing no hands, that is carried. We'll now proceed to the hearing. I will ask that anyone speaking about an application to state their full name and address for the record. Please keep all remarks relevant to the consent or minor variance application before us, as the Committee of Adjustment has no jurisdiction or any other matters. Any materials submitted to the committee for reviewing will remain the property of the Committee of Adjustment and will be available for public viewing in the application file and may be placed online. Please direct all remarks and questions to the chairperson of the committee. This will enable the hearing to be conducted in an organized manner. The first file is A624, Alan Bowman. The purpose of the minor variance is to permit construction of a 150 square meter home industry metal workshop with 150 square meters of outdoor storage. A two-story house, proposed barn, and accessory building would also be constructed on the vacant property. The definition of home industry in Section 3 of the zoning bylaw permits certain occupations accessory to a permitted farm or rural residential use occupying more than 100 square meters floor area of an accessory building with maximum 200 square meters of outdoor storage. Other home industry rules in the zoning bylaw will be met, including signage restrictions, maximum one employee, off-street parking, and maintaining the character of the property to not create a public nuisance. The effect of the minor variance is to permit 150 square meter home industry metal workshop exceeding the maximum floor area allowed by zoning of 100 square meters and to restrict outdoor storage to 150 square meters where the zoning bylaw permits up to 200 square meters. The location of the subject land is concession 13, part lot 33, Rural Property 16R8317 Part 2, Geographic Township of Proton, Township of Southgate, Civic Address. There is none assigned at this time. Is there a request for deferral or withdrawal of the application, Alicia?
There have been none received.
Wonderful. We can proceed. May I please have clarification that the sign was posted?
Yes, Chair O'Brien, I would just also clarify this application was previously presented to the committee and it was deferred to address some comments, and it's now coming back before you. So notice was given in accordance with the Planning Act.
Wonderful. Thanks, Alicia. I'll now ask Planner Bill White to review all the comments received and present his staff report. Good morning, Bill.
Good morning. Thank you, Chair DeBreen. As was said by the Secretary Treasurer, the committee did defer this item for further review. The main concern at the time was County of Grey concerns with the application. And these concerns are on your agenda again today. Also, comments from the Conservation Authority are in there and other agencies that are not opposed to the application. The main concern with the county was compliance with their policies for on-farm diversified uses. Following the deferral, both the township staff met with the county planners on the issue, and I believe the applicant also met with the county on the issue. I am imagining that the applicant or his agent is present and can comment on that meeting, but as far as our meeting went, we spoke at length about the intent of county policies, and what it came down to is that the township policies are speak directly to home industries and allowing them on smaller lots such as this in agricultural areas, whereas the county official plan does not allow that, and their official plan is silent as far as it goes on home industry type uses. So they were considering this as an on-farm diversified use on a small lot in a prime ag land, and they have put forward their policy concerns with it. But in the course of our discussions, they've agreed in email and in discussion to that the township plan is more permissive, that it is allowed, and that they would defer to the township plan in this case. There may be issues in the long term that we need to work on as far as compliance, but for this application, I believe that I'm not speaking out of turn to say they are deferring to the township's official plan, which we believe does support this. But this is a difference in our official plan as a home industry because it's specifically allowed as an on-farm diversified use. So in the tables in the plan, it mentions home industries, and we've pointed out that in our original report. The other issue here is that this property was rezoned years ago to recognize the small size, and so basically what you have is a farm residence being built on a property, and having a home industry like every other home industry is allowed in accessory to a farm residential use. The issue here is, what is the impact of making that bigger? Because technically on a property like this, it can be 100 square meters in size. It can be a welding shop, which is what's proposed, and they can have 200 square meters of storage associated with that. What they're proposing is to commit to reduced storage, so they'll be down to 150 square meters in storage instead of 200, and we're recommending a condition that would limit them to that, but they would increase the shop size to 150 square meters. So what it came down to from our perspective was that even though this is a small lot, it is permitted to have a home industry on it in our interpretation of the township official plan, and that use of the property supporting the agricultural community is more appropriate for the site than, say, an estate residential lot, which would also be allowed on there. It's our understanding that the applicants will also farm other properties in this area, And so, yes, it is a farm use being established there on a subsidized lot, but the impact of having which will be a comparatively small welding shop compared to a lot of the, I guess 5 times smaller, I think, than a typical large lot on farm diversified use. So in the course of our review, based on our meeting with the county staff, we're comfortable supporting the application. We believe it maintains the 4 tests for a minor variance, that it is minor, desirable for the development of the property, and maintains the intent and purpose of the township official plan and zoning bylaw. And we're recommending committee approve it with 2 conditions: to limit the storage and that there's some screening installed for the site. I'd happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Bill. And were there any comments from the public? Alicia? I didn't see any. Okay.
No, Chair DeBreen, there were none received.
Okay, thank you very much. Is the applicant in attendance? And if so, would they care to come forward and present their case?
Hello, Solomon Martin here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Solomon, welcome. Good morning.
Good morning. I don't have much to say other than what Bill said. And yes, I did talk to the county staff as well. And I guess that's where we came to is the county OP and the township OP don't quite align with the home industry. And that home industry is really not listed in the county, and somehow it got dropped through OPA 11, they thought. So I guess that's all I really have to say.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions from the committee? I see no hands. I have one question, Bill. Oh, I see Joan's hand. Go ahead, Joan.
Good morning again. Through the chair, Bill, you're saying that now you are complying with everything from the County of Grey, and the Conservation Authority is all fine, and you will have the clause of limiting the storage and the subscreen install, and that was all of what we asked for when we asked for it to be deferred?
I guess if I may, through the chair, I feel like that is where we sit with the application. I'm not sure that's exactly what you were looking for when it was deferred, but I think the main concern was the county comments that said that it didn't comply with their plan. But I believe that the meeting, it goes to quite technical things as far as interpretation and upper tier plans versus lower tier plans and so forth. But I believe they can see where it complies in our plan, and that their plan is really silent on it. And so we've agreed that they feel that the township plan can take precedence in this case because it's more specific and it does allow the use.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions from the committee? I had one question, Bill. Does that 150 square meters for the shop include the power room and office?
As far as I
any?
know, I don't even recall seeing a power room on the site plan, but I'm imagining so. We can maybe confirm that with the applicant, but that would be a requirement, that the power room, and if they have an office, it is quite small, like 150 square meters. It's fairly large relative to, say, a single family home, but relative to these other ones, it's quite small. So yes, it would have to include all that space.
Yeah, if required. Thank you very much. Okay, are there any others in attendance that would like to speak in support of this application? Are there any others in attendance that would like to speak in opposition of this application? I'll ask the committee members. Oh, I see David's iPhone has unmuted. Please state your name and address if you wish to speak in opposition of this file.
Oh, I don't have an opposition. I'm for a different file. I'm here for a different file.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Sorry.
That's okay. I just saw that you unmuted. Thank you. Are there any other questions from the committee at this time?
I actually have one comment, if I may.
Yes, hi Solomon, go ahead.
Hello.
Yes,
Regarding the power room and this that part is actually agriculture, the power room and the skid steer room. The skid steer is used for the barn for cleaning out. So I did not have that portion of it included with the 150 square meter home industry.
okay, thank you. Bill, did you want to follow up?
If I may, through the chair, that's fine. We do run into that from time to time, that the skid steer power room is jointly used for the agricultural use as well. So I don't think we have a problem with that, as long as it is being used for the agricultural portion of this as well.
Thank you. All right, so may I have a mover and a seconder to grant, refuse, or defer the application? Brian,
I'll move that we grant.
I have a seconder? Monica? Be it resolved that the Committee of Adjustment receive for information staff report PL 2024-076 on file A6-24 Alan Bowman, Southgate Side Road 21, north of Gray Road 9, and approve the application for minor variance subject to the following conditions: that the welding shop on the subject lands be restricted to a maximum 150 square meters, and that the outdoor storage be limited to 150 square meters, and B, that the shop building be screened with trees from the street and the property to the north. Are there any opposed to this granting of this application? Seeing no hands, I declare that just have to go to the next page. The decision of the committee is to grant the application. The applicant shall have 2 years in which the conditions must be met. Thank you very much. We'll move on to the next file. A724. Just bear, sorry, got to go to the next file. A724, Marvin Berenger. The purpose of the minor variance is to allow farm operations to expand by building a 1,900 meters squared dairy barn, 1,115.8 meters squared feed storage bunker, and 423.34 meters squared solid manure storage on the applicant's 14.5 hectare lot. The applicant's farm operation also includes 46.9 tillable acres separated by a 20-meter wide strip of land under separate ownership. The agricultural 2 zoning restricts livestock operations based on the ratio of tillable acres to nutrient units. To meet the ratio of tillable lands to nutrient units, the applicant's 14.5 hectare lot and separate 46.9 hectare lot must be combined in the calculation. The effect of the minor variance is to interpret the A2 zoning to include both the applicant's separate lots in the ratio of tillable lands to nutrient units, so a new dairy barn, feed storage bunker, and solid manure storage can be added to existing farm operations. The location of the subject land is concession 3 South, part lot 62, lot 60, geographic township of Egremont, township of Southgate, civic address 391311, Gray Road 109. Is there a request for deferral or withdrawal of the application?
Through the chair, there have been none received.
Thanks, Alicia. May I please have clarification that the sign was posted?
Yes, through the chair, sign was posted and notice was given in accordance with the Planning Act.
Thank you. I'll now ask Planner Bill White to review the comments received and present his staff report. Bill?
Good morning, Deputy DeBreen. It'll actually be me on this file this morning.
Great. Good morning, Victoria.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody. So let me just dive in. Subject lands, as Deputy DeBreen kind of outlined, are on the corner of Southgate Road 6 and Gray Road 9. Consists of the 14.6 hectare parcel and the 47 hectare parcel, which fronts to the east on Southgate Side Road 41. and which is currently being farmed. And as well, the two parcels are separated by a 20.1 meter farm access, which is owned by the neighbors to the north. They access it to get to Southgate Road 6. The applicant is requesting to exceed the nutrient unit per acre ratio, and the lots are zoned A2. The expansion currently exceeds the nutrient units that are allowed on the 14.6 hectare lot to the west. To meet the 2-to-1 ratio, they're looking to that committee consider both the 14.6 and the 47 hectare parcel. And as a condition of the variance, that the lots be tied together. The 2-to-1 ratio could be met if the proposed farm expansion were located to the east on the 47 hectare parcel, but it would be unable to meet MDS and would not provide a tight farm cluster as well. So the proposed farm expansion, it takes place on the 14.6 hectare parcel, and it provides a tighter farm cluster. The expansion includes, as outlined earlier, a dairy barn, a storage bunker, and a solid manure storage. And this increase for nutrient units, they're proposing 118. So if the number of nutrient units is over 100, a ratio of 2 units per tillable acre applies. So with 118 nutrient units proposed, a ratio of 2-to-1 applies. And this means that the expansion should occur on a 59 acre or 23.9 hectare parcel. So to meet that ratio, the tillable lands to nutrient units, the applicant is proposing on the 14.6 hectare parcel, it would need to be 9.3 hectares larger. So the variance is proposed to comply with the ratio of nutrient units to tillable land in the A2 zone. Move on to some comments received. So Bell Canada Township Fire Department, the Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority, and Township Public Works, all of which had no concerns. And Grey County stated that ecology and transportation staff have no concerns. Planning staff also have no concerns, provided the proposed meets MDS. And from what I believe, no public comments were received as well. So to continue, the variance is proposed to allow a 3.3-to-1 ratio and allow expansion on the smaller parcel and ensure the 47 hectare parcel remains available for cash crop farming and create a tighter farm cluster on the smaller 14.6 hectare parcel. So township staff recommend committee impose a condition to attempt to legally tie the smaller and larger parcel together. So long as the expansion remains is applicable, it follows and complies to applicable zoning standards, and the number of nutrient units does not exceed 118. The variance could be considered minor and desirable to the development of the lands and maintains the intent and purpose of the official plan and zoning bylaw. And happy to answer any questions.
Chair Dobrin, you're muted.
Somebody had to do it. Good morning again. Is the applicant in attendance, and would they like to speak in support of their application?
Good morning. Is anybody able to hear me?
We can hear you fine. Thank you, Cleon.
I am the, thank you. Good morning. I am the applicant. I am here to answer any questions. I defer most of any to planner Victoria, who understands the planning part of it better than I do. But I'm here to answer any questions if there be any.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Are there any questions from the committee at this time? Joan? Joan?
Yeah,
And then
good
Martin.
morning. Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Just about the increased smell from the larger manure storage, is there going to be an increase in the smell based on the fact that it's the larger?
Victoria?
An increase, are you concerned about neighbors?
Yeah.
Okay. From my understanding, because it meets MDS, that wouldn't be a concern to surrounding neighbors. That's why it's proposed in the 14.6 hectare parcel to provide better distance. If it was on the 47 hectare to the east, it would be closer to, I believe there's some estate lots to the south. So it's to mitigate that. That's part of it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Martin?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Excuse me, everybody can hear me. I hope. I've had computer issues. I've got no problem with this, as you know, the other bigger parcel is obviously cash crop to begin with. So the estate lots there, which I know I've worked in there quite a bit, I've never heard any complaints from any people I've talked to, mainly because of, you know, cash crop. They have to spread manure at certain times of the year. So this really isn't going to affect it. My only question is, it says remains for cash crop only. Does that apply if by some chance, being a bigger lot, if it gets severed, is that going to affect MDS along the lines in the future? Like, we're talking quite a bit down the road maybe, but is it specifically going to be used for cash crop and no hint of any severances? Because that will affect this MDS. Does that make sense?
Yep. Thank you, Martin. I think Bill is unmuted, and I'll go to either Victoria or Bill.
I can take a stab at it.
Awesome.
I know you're concerned about severance and meeting MDS from the larger parcel, but from my understanding, if there was something on the larger parcel, it wouldn't meet MDS. So I don't think that's in the applicant's mind that they would want to do that. They want to keep a tighter farm cluster on the smaller parcel.
If I may just add, Victoria is correct. The MDS would come in to play for any future use on that lot. That's the challenge we've had, Victoria and I, in dealing with this, is that it is actually already a separate lot, because there is a strip of land that's owned by the neighbor to the north between it. So if this was one parcel, then it would comply with that ratio that we talk about in the report, that she talks about in the report. But because it's actually separate, they're separate lots, it can only be considered to be on the smaller lot at this point in time. We talked with the county about putting it on the bigger lot, and it would meet the ratio in the A2 zone, but it wouldn't meet MDS. So that's why we're here at the committee, is to try and deal with this. So we struggled with it for that reason, because the ratio gets quite a bit bigger on the smaller lot, but there can't be, I don't think, a livestock barn put on the bigger lot or a new farm cluster established, even though it's separate, because of MDS. So it will remain as agriculture, cropping primarily.
So that extra piece of land is almost like a buffer by itself then for the, yeah, okay, that makes sense. Okay, well, thanks. Thank you.
Are there any other questions from committee at this time? I have one question then, Victoria. By tying the lands together, what do you mean? Would the larger parcel be restricted for future development? Kind of like a surplus farm severance, but not?
I think it's to legally tie the two lots together. I don't think there'd be anything in regard to restricting development on that property. But from what I understand, the applicants want to keep in the farm cluster. So I think they want to keep the larger parcel to the east, just as farm crop. So I don't think at this point there's any desire to expand development on that side.
Okay, thank you. Are there any others in attendance that would like to speak in support of this application?
Can I comment here through you, Chair?
Yes, please go ahead, Cleon.
Just a confirmation, as the applicants, we do not anticipate or desire any development on the larger property. We like Victoria and Brian correctly represented us that the development would remain in the farm cluster, and that the nutrients applied we would need that larger piece of land to handle the nutrients generated, and if we would exceed the the acceptable nutrients that would be generated for even those two parcels. It's already approved within the Nutrient Management Act. We've got an approval from OMAFRA to handle those nutrients, and if we exceed that allowable amount, we will go to other destinations outside of those two. But there is no intent or desire to do any development on the larger property.
Thank you for clarification. Thank you. Are there any others in attendance that would like to speak in opposition of this application? I'll ask the committee again if there's any other questions or discussion required at this time. May I have a mover? Sorry, Monica, go ahead. Oh, may I request a mover and seconder to grant, refuse, or defer the application? Martin,
I move to grant.
seconder. Joan. Okay. The decision of the Committee of Adjustment is to grant the application with the following conditions. Be it resolved that the Committee of Adjustment receive for information staff report PL 2024-071 for file A7-24 Marvin Berenger 391-311 Gray Road 109 and approve minor variance A7-24 to permit expansion of the existing farm cluster to include a 1,901 square meter dairy barn, 1,115.08 square meter storage bunker, and 423.34 square meter solid manure storage, subject to the following conditions: that the number of nutrient units on site not exceed 118, such that the ratio of nutrient units to tillable acres is less than 3.3 to 1. And B, the minimum distance separation requirements and all regulations in the agricultural 1 zone applicable to the A2 zone and other provisions of the zoning bylaw are met. Any further discussion? Any opposed? Seeing no hands and hearing no comments, that is carried. The applicant shall have 2 years in which the conditions must be met. We'll move on to the next file. A8-24, Stuart Martin. The purpose of the minor variance is to expand farm operations by building a 1,200 square meter barn plus a feed room and bunker storage. The proposed variance would reduce the minimum distance separation from 197 meters between the proposed barn and the nearest residence to 118 meters. The effect of the minor variance would be to reduce the minimum distance separation 197 meters to 118 meters to allow construction of the proposed barn. Location of the subject land is Concession 3, Part Lot 14, Geographic Township of Proton, Township of Southgate, civic address 045475, Southgate Road 4. Is there a request for deferral or withdrawal of the application, Alicia?
Through the chair, there have been none received.
That's great. We can proceed. May I please have clarification that the sign was posted?
Through the chair, the sign was posted and notice was given in accordance with the Planning Act.
Wonderful. I'll now ask Victoria Mance to present all comments received and the staff report. Go ahead, Victoria.
Thank you, Chair DeBreen. Okay, so as mentioned, subject lands are fronting onto Southgate Road 4 and are between side roads 11 and 13. The site is being actively farmed and contains a 2-story dwelling and an equipment shed. There are some high voltage transmission lines that are running diagonally behind the existing shed, and the South Saugeen River flows west of the farm cluster with the tributary crossing the site north of the existing buildings. The proposal includes, as mentioned, a bunker, a feed room, and a barn. The required MDS, as mentioned again, is 197 meters, and the applicant is requesting a minor variance to reduce the MDS from 197 to 118 meters. The buildable area on site is limited due to the easement of the high voltage transmission lines, the EP zoning, and the corresponding SVCA, or the Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority screening area. So the applicant was advised during the pre-consultation of the wetland zoning on the property, which requires 120 meter setback. So therefore, the proposed buildings were moved further south on the property within the required MDS setback. The variance on the MDS allows the barn to be located further south to comply with 120 meter setback from the wetland zone and the location of the environmental protection zone and the Saugeen Valley Conservation Area screening area and the easement for the high voltage transmission lines. So there's quite a few things that he had to comply with to get these proposed buildings to comply and required a minor variance or reduction in the MDS. So to move on to some comments received from Bell Canada, the Township Fire Department, Historic Saugeen Métis, and Grey County, all of which had no concerns. And the Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority recommend that the environmental protection zone mapping be updated to better reflect the site conditions. And for public comments, a verbal public comment was received in objection to the application from Stuart Howells. But after staff's review of the proposal, the variance to reduce the MDS setback from 197 to 118 is minor, or could be considered minor, desirable for the appropriate development of the lands, and maintains the intent and purpose of both official plans and the township zoning bylaw. And here to answer any questions. You're muted.
Up to $10 now. Thank you. Any questions from the committee? Joan.
Good morning again. Victoria, could you give us some more, explain a little bit more about the Grey County's report? I noticed you didn't say anything about it apart from the other two reports, because I was reading and I probably don't understand everything in there. Paragraph 3, I think, with the not be able to be met through a modification to the development being proposed, blah, blah, blah. Could you just explain that a little bit more for me? Thank you.
Sorry, which paragraph? Which page?
So
of-
it's the
of their
Grey
comments?
County letter.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Paragraph 7, page 2.
Page 2. Okay.
Municipalities should not reduce MDS from that line.
It's where sufficient reasoning has been provided, except where sufficient reasoning has been provided. So there's quite a few restrictions on the site, as mentioned. The wetland setback was 120 meters. So the applicant adjusted their site plan due to that. There was some EP, environmental protection zoning as well, and the high voltage transmission lines too. So there's quite a few things that the applicant had to adjust for. So staff would be able to support that it's sufficient reasoning. So therefore, Grey County didn't have any concerns from their side.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Brian, and then Martin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I believe it was Victoria referenced a objection from a resident. What was the nature of the objection?
Thank you.
Apologies, all I received was that it was a verbal comment of objection from, I believe they were a neighbor from the site.
Okay, thank you.
Could I speak?
Just you'll have a moment. We'll get to objections.
I just want to say
Yes.
I do support Stuart Howells, so it's not just Stuart Howells. I am a
Okay, Mr. Robinson, we're going to come to support and opposition. You'll have
Okay.
an opportunity.
sorry. I just
Awesome.
didn't
Thank
know
you.
whether
No,
I was
that's fine.
on.
No, that's great. We will be getting to that shortly as soon
I'm
as we go
sorry to
through the
interfere.
committee. No, we're really happy that you're here. Thank you. Martin?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. That was my question too. Like usually we get updates on opposition fairly quickly. It is a farm parcel. Do they, I guess if Cleon's there, do they have a really good access to the back part of the lot? Because there is a lot of hazard land back there, and with all the wetland is provincial significant wetland. I'd like to hear the opposition, but right now I'm for it, because to me, when I look like this, because of the the man-made boundaries because of the transmission lines and the hazard and the natural barriers, this is almost like, just a comment, this is almost like when we get files where a garage has to be put in front of the home, where usually it's beside or back. So this is something that they want to do to increase the farm income and what have you. So in principle right now, I'm for it. That's just a comment. It's the natural, the only way it could work because of the all the boundaries and restrictions around it. So anyway, looking forward to hear the opposition comments.
Thank you, Martin. Any other questions from the committee? I'll now ask if there's anyone present to speak in support of the application.
Cleon Martin here.
Yes.
I am the applicant. I am also very interested in opposition comments. I was unaware of them. I would clarify to the committee that the MDS that is out of compliance is to the owner himself. He owns the house across the road, which is out of compliance and is in support of it. Any other neighbors are MDS compliant, and so we do not try to create discord in the community, and we're unaware of the opposition, and we're very interested in hearing it and seeing if any mitigating measures can alleviate any concerns.
Thank you, Cleon. So I'll now move on and ask if there's anyone in attendance who would like to speak in opposition of this application. I believe that would be you, Andrew Robinson.
Yes, I'm opposed.
Mr. Robinson?
I should
Yeah.
say that I own the farm property at 45435 Southgate Road, so it's immediately adjacent to the subject property. I'm opposed to it for a number of reasons. First of all, in my understanding of a minor variance, this is not a minor variance. This is a major variance, which goes directly against the reason for the bylaw, which creates the separation. It in effect is not a minor variance. It's a redoing the whole purpose of having a separation between residences and barns. It will it is not a minor variance. Is usually in this kind of thing is dealing with an owner who can't comply with specific requirements that are measured in feet or meters, and but this variance would reduce the separation between residences and the barn by about 50%. This is a very large barn. I'm not sure what the use of it will be, but it probably will have a significant effect upon the residences. It is, from a visual point of view, it will be close to the road and will change the character of the property, the surrounding properties. I'm also opposed because the barn doesn't need to be where the applicant is proposing it. I understand, I may stand to be corrected, but the owner owns about 100 acres. And the barn doesn't have to be that close. He doesn't need a minor variance to put up a barn. I'm also concerned from an environmental point of view, and I'm not sure how this affects the barn or whether the two are connected, but the applicant has dug a gravel pit, which is very close to the river, and I'm concerned that it will have an effect on the water quality. It is not a small gravel pit. It is very deep, and it goes right to the very edge of our property. And I think I had no word that this was being done. I think it's being done without a permit. I'd like a study done to see whether there is any connection between the two and to whether there should have been a permit for this gravel pit. I think those are my main objections. It's not minor. It's not required. It has I think a possible environmental impact. It's a large barn, and visually it will create a change in the character of the surrounding properties. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Robinson. Are there any other members in attendance in opposition of this application that would like to speak? Please unmute and state your name and address.
I did speak to Stuart
Sorry.
Howells, and he said he was going to be on telephone. He didn't get notice of the Committee of Adjustment meeting. And
we do have,
sorry,
Mr. Robinson, we do have several people on telephone.
Okay, sorry.
I'm just waiting for someone to unmute and identify themselves if they wish to speak.
Thank you.
I see no one unmuting, so I suppose he wasn't able to attend or connect.
Excuse me. Hello?
Oh, go ahead. Please
Yes,
state your name and address for the record.
This is Stuart Howells at 045456 Southgate Road 4. I'm basically directly across the road from this proposed barn, and I oppose it.
And your reasons, sir?
Because to me, this is not a minor variance. It's, as Sandy said, it's cutting it in half, and that's going to really affect my property.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Howell. Any other people wanting to make a comment in opposition of this application? Hearing none, I'll now ask the committee if there's any other comments or discussion required. Monica? Monica. And then
Hi,
Martin.
thank you. Good morning. Can you just confirm that you can hear me okay? I'm using a different mic.
Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you.
Thank you so much.
Good.
Thank you. So just in the spirit of ensuring that the neighbors and community are in agreement, and especially since this is direct proximity to the proposed application, I think that it might be a good idea to possibly defer approving this so that the studies that Mr. Robinson has requested, or some of those clarifications that have been proposed, be looked into a bit more. So I'm not sure right now if that's a comment from me or if I'm moving to defer, but that's kind of where I am right now. And just, I saw Councillor Shipson had his hand up. So that's my comment, I guess, for this moment, and just hearing what others have to say.
Thank you, Monica. We'll be getting to a motion to grant, refuse, or defer once we get through this next phase of commenting. Thank you. Martin?
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I would just like some clarification with the opposing members of the public. And then Cleon, Mr. Martin said that he had no opposition because the property directly south was in agreement. So, Mr. Robinson, if I can ask you, I'm looking at the lot map now. What lot are you? I don't see the numbers, fire numbers. So with you and the other gentleman, he said he was directly opposite. So I'd just like the clarification when I'm looking at the lot maps, where exactly your properties are in relation to the proposed development.
My property is, I am on the north side of Concession Road 4. So I'd be immediately to the west.
So lot 13?
Just a minute. I should know this stuff off by heart, but
well, it says Proton, and I'm looking at a lot of floating Proton there. That's why it's all wetland. So I just like to get that visual in my head, if you don't mind.
The river runs right through my property, the north part of my property. I'm on the corner of 11 and 4.
I'm going to try and bring a map up.
Thank you, Alicia. I was just about to ask for an aerial view of the lot fabric. Thank you.
Southgate Side Road 11 and number 4. I'm right on the corner.
Alicia's going to bring up a map, Mr. Robinson.
Thank you.
We lost Martin. There we go. Okay, Martin's back.
Yes, my apologies.
That's okay.
I am having technical
That's okay,
difficulty.
Martin. It's okay,
Yeah,
Martin.
thank you.
So
Yeah.
the lot in question, or the application in question, is bounded by the yellow lines?
No, my apologies.
No? Okay.
The blue. The
It's
blue is
the blue.
the application.
Okay. And so your property, Mr. Robinson, is to the west
Yes,
of,
it would be bounded by the yellow line.
so it's lot 13. Okay.
You can see the river running
Mm-hmm.
through the north part of my property.
And Mr. Howell's property is likely directly across from yours?
No, it would be directly across from the applicant's property.
Thank you. We've got that now then. So the farm parcel, Alicia, that the applicant, or perhaps Cleon can speak to, where he owns the applicant owns the farm parcel across the road.
Is this parcel in blue?
There, I see. Okay.
This
Okay.
is the dwelling that is out of compliance with the MDS.
Right. Okay. And so the MDS can be met to the other dwellings on the neighboring properties not owned by the applicant.
That is correct, Chair.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
The gravel pit has been dug beside, very close to the river, just to the east of the north-south boundary of my property.
So thank you. And that can be considered, I believe, for agricultural purposes. The landowner can draw on aggregate for farm use, but I would defer to the planner to investigate,
big
clarify.
pit.
Well, thank you, Mr. Robinson. All right. Are there any other questions? I think we can take the map down now, Alicia, so that I can see everyone. there any other questions, comments from the committee?
Jason here, Barb, if I could have one.
Yes. Hi, Jason.
How are you
Good
doing?
morning.
Morning. Sorry, I apologize not being on the
Good.
video. Yeah, I don't think I know the property quite well. He has met all the distances required. The farm to the east of him is actually as stated across the road. He owns the farm. The other dwelling is out of the MDS. The east property is owned by Ontario Hydro, and with the power lines going through there, there's no chance they could build there. So, I'm pretty comfortable with the whole thing, and I'm not sure this is the spot to be bringing up the gravel pit. It's on farm use gravel pit, so he's well within his rights. Just wanted to make that point, and I support it.
Thank you, Jason. That was my comment also. What I would like to ask is to the planner. I expect that this application was filed and in process prior to April 1st, when the Conservation Act made changes to the setback to provincially significant wetlands. Victoria or Bill?
It might have been following, but they've been in conversation with the SPCA since then. I believe they've had a site visit and they've had quite a few updates to the site plan, just following comments from the Conservation Authority.
Right. I'm just wondering if because the rule of thumb is if the application is prior to any changes, it follows the regulations set at the time of the application. Since April 1st, they've reduced the setback for provincially significant wetlands from 120 meters to 30 meters. And I'm not sure if an exception, if they want to explore that further, if there was a possibility of moving it closer to the provincially significant wetland now, if those parameters could be met, would that satisfy and eliminate the need for this minor variance? Bill or Victoria?
Maybe I could try this one. There still is a setback in the township zoning bylaw of 120 meters, even though the provincially significant policy distance may have been reduced. So yes, he could move it perhaps closer toward the wetland, but he would need to submit a variance, or there would need to be a variance granted on that provision in our zoning bylaw, which currently states 120 meters. We did, and I know Victoria worked with this applicant for several months to try and find a location for this, even on other lands that he owns, the applicant owns. And so this was kind of where we ended up, having considered the wetland and the high voltage transmission lines, the river, and the surrounding homes and farms. This was, I guess, the best location that we could find, even though it does require the variance. So as far as the wetland setback, he is restricted by the current zoning bylaw provision, and we didn't apply for that, and we didn't move it further away from the house, because then you start hitting those high voltage transmission lines. So that's why we ended up where we are.
Okay, thank you. All right, any further discussion, comments from the committee? Monica?
Thank you. Just through you, Chair, to Bill. Would there, and you may have already answered this, so apologize, but would there be, what's that word? Valid or a good idea to do some of the requested reports that Mr. Robinson brought up?
If I
Or
may, to the
studies.
chair, I think, if I don't want to interpret anyone's comments, I think he was referring primarily to the gravel pit and the environmental impact on the river. And I think one of the members mentioned, and the chair mentioned about the agricultural use of a pit and so forth. I suppose a study could determine the impact of the pit on the river, but I don't think it's really relevant to the variance that's being proposed here. I'm not sure there's a study that could help address the concerns with the pit, as far as this, or with the minor variants that are being expressed. The MDS is there to give guidance on separation. These homes that the only home that's impacted by the MDS and the variance is one that's owned by the applicant. And these other homes are far enough away. And that's when you get into moving barns around onto other properties, you can start to impact other people. So I don't think there's a study that could be done to help alleviate the concerns that have been expressed. But, and if setting aside the pit, which in my view really isn't relevant to the variance on MDS setback, it may be an environmental issue, but I don't think that environmental issue ties in with what the committee's dealing with here, as far as where the barn should go and the minimum distance separation. I don't think there's a study that he could do. I suppose he could speak to, the applicant could speak to other locations he looked at with us and why he chose the location he did and why the barn has to be the size it is. Because if the barn were smaller, say, then the MDS setback would be less and the variance could be less. But he's choosing to develop his business for agriculture on the property, which is encouraged by our planning policies and allowed. And as far as we can tell with working with him over the last few months, this is the best location that could be found for this barn.
Thank you. Any follow-up, Monica?
No, thank you for that.
Okay. Cleon, did you want to respond?
Yes, I have a comment. Thank you, Brian, for your well-stated comments there. It certainly says it well. Other sites were considered, and through you, Chair, if one of those sites that were considered would require a variance from one of the members of the public that is currently expressing a lack of support. And so if we were forced to defer or be denied here, we would be forced to then make an application where we would be out of compliance to one of the landowners where we currently are compliant. So we've tried to do the best we can. And in terms of the setbacks to the environmental zones, I believe the high voltage transmission circuit setback is more restrictive than the environmental zones currently. We really have nowhere to go here. We've tried to do the best we can, and we are compliant, MDS compliant, to the members of the public who have expressed concern. We are MDS compliant, just to clarify that again to those as well. These people are very neat and tidy. The dairy operation will be aesthetically pleasing with a curved view, and the most latest technology of animal husbandry is being implemented in this farming operation. And in terms of scale, this is actually a very small dairy operation. Those are my comments for now, Chair.
Thank you. All right, Martin.
Thank you, Chair. In response to Mr. Robinson's comments about the aesthetics being so close to the road, Cleon, you just mentioned it's a very neat area. Depending on how close it is to the road, would you be willing to put up a tree buffer so it is hidden? Because as my previous comment, if this was a garage in town having a variation where it would be in front of the building, they're usually kind of camouflaged from the road to make, like to make it look nice. Would that be something they would be interested in doing if it is that close to the road? And you mentioned a small operation. What do you consider a small operation? 100 cattle or
Uh,
100 head? Gary?
Through
Martin,
you,
I'll let him
Chair. I'll have to-
respond.
Yeah, through you, Chair. Again, I believe I have to look up the file. I think we're in the neighborhood of 40 dairy cows, 40 to 60, somewhere in that range of dairy cows. We are not opposed to a row of trees, with one exception. It is a naturally ventilated barn, and so to naturally ventilate a row of trees would actually mitigate that natural ventilation, and so we have to also consider animal husbandry. But it's certainly the right design of a buffer could be of assistance there if it didn't have too much altitude and would mitigate that natural ventilation.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. I think we've had ample discussion. I will ask for a mover and seconder to grant, refuse, or defer the application.
Jason,
Brian?
here, Barb, I'll move it or second it, whatever. Yeah.
Move to what?
Oh, grant the application. Sorry. Yeah.
I'll second.
Thank you. The decision of the Committee of Adjustment, or there's a mover and seconder to grant the application with the following conditions. Be it resolved that the Committee of Adjustment receive staff report PL 2024-072 regarding minor variance file A8-24 by Stuart Martin for 04547 Southgate Road 04 be received for information. And 2, approve minor variance A8-24 to reduce the minimum distance separation requirement from 197 meters to 118 meters to allow a farm expansion that includes 372.1 square meter bunker, 82.81 square meter feed room, and 1,207.8 square meter barn, subject to the following conditions: that all remaining provisions of the agricultural 1 zone and other applicable sections of the zoning bylaw are met, the terms of all applicable easements are met, and permits, if required, are obtained from the Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority. Are there any opposed? Joan? That is carried. The applicant will have 2 years in which to meet the conditions as outlined in the resolution. Thank you. Move on to the next file. A10-24. Just moving my sheet of paper. Or, sorry, is that correct, Alicia?
Yes, you are correct.
Okay, just to turn the page. We're moving along faster than I thought. David Wells. The purpose of the minor variance is to allow an addition behind the existing attached garage. The required rear yard in the residential type 2 zone is 7.6 meters minimum. The proposed rear yard is 2.9 meters. A variance of 4.6 meters is requested to permit the garage addition. The effect of the minor variance would be to reduce minimum rear yard to allow an addition to the back of the existing garage. Location of the subject lands is concession 1, SWTSR part lot. I'll just remind everyone to mute if not speaking. Would be to reduce the minimum rear yard setback in addition of the back of the existing garage. The location of the subject land is concession 1, SWTSR part lot 231, RP17R 2519, part 4 and 5, geographic village of Dundalk, township of Southgate, civic address 185 Russell Street. Is there a request for deferral or withdrawal of the application?
Through the chair, there have been none received.
Thank you. May I please have clarification that the sign was posted in accordance with the Planning Act?
Yes, through the chair, the sign was posted and notice was given in accordance with the Planning Act.
Thank you, Alicia. I'll now ask the planner, Victoria Mance, to review all comments received and present the staff report. Go ahead.
Thank you. Okay, so as mentioned, subject lands front onto Russell Street. They're facing the Victoria Street East intersection. There's some existing structures, including a 102.4 square meter single detached dwelling and a 22.7 square meter attached garage. The proposed garage addition is located 1.68 meters south of the northern lot line and to the west of the existing attached garage. A municipally owned storm drain is located within a 3-meter wide easement along the northwest lot line. And the proposed garage addition does not meet the required minimum yard of 7.6 meters, but it meets the other applicable regulations in the R2 zone, which include the minimum 1.5 meter interior side yard and the maximum lot coverage of 35%. So the proposed variance is to allow a 2.44 meter rear yard setback. The applicant's wide lot would normally allow an addition on the northwest side of the home, where there is a 7.39 meter side yard, but the municipal drainage easement prevents the construction. So with the easement and the wider lot, there is appropriate outdoor space associated with the existing home. To move on to some comments, Bell Canada, Historic Saugeen Métis, the Township Fire Department, and Township Public Works, all of which had no concerns. The Township Building Department stated that the proposal requires applicable permits before construction, will require legal binding documents signed by the owner and neighboring property owner at 251 Russell Street. The building staff also pointed out the access over curb and Boulevard on Sheffield and asked that proper precautions for public safety be required during construction. Furthermore, Grey County stated that the subject lands are within the Wellhead Protection Zone D, but have no concerns. And from my understanding, no public comments were received for this application. So the proposed variance will have minimal impacts to adjacent properties, and overall it functions well on the subject lands. With conditions requiring privacy fencing be restored after construction and prohibiting vehicle storage on the side and front yards and ensuring all remaining zoning rules are met. Based on staff's review at this time, the proposed variance could be considered minor, desirable for the appropriate development of the lands, and will maintain the intent and purpose of the official plan and zoning bylaw. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions Is the applicant in attendance and would they like to speak in support of their application?
Yes, I'm here. I'm David Wells.
Hi, welcome, David.
Hi.
Did you want to add anything in support of your application?
No, I think everything sounds good. As far as I'm concerned, yeah, I don't think I have any concerns.
Okay, thank you. Do any of the members of the committee have any questions? Joan?
Yeah, thank you. Through the chair again. Just a concern about the large addition to the garage, if that will cause any spring runoff to the neighboring properties. It's, you know, when the snow and the ice melt, because you can see the elevation around the new build and we're kind of close in terms of runoff and stuff like that during the springtime.
Victoria?
Well, they're able to maintain that setback from the northern lot line to that neighbor. So hopefully that would help mitigate any issues. And they're not close to the neighbors to the south as well. And there will be putting up privacy fencing again, but in terms of snow removal and runoff, I believe they would probably put some kind of apologies, I can't remember the word.
Weeping tile?
Yes, yeah. So, or on the structure to allow runoff off of the garage. I'm sure that they would add something like that for such a larger structure.
And proper use troughing and things like that.
Yeah, this is David Wells speaking again. We will have proper gutters and downspouts to allow for snow and rain runoff. And the backyard will be graded accordingly.
Sorry, it took me a minute to get my microphone turned on.
Just a moment, sir.
Yeah.
Just a moment.
Okay.
Mr. Cordero, we will get to opposed and support of applications.
Oh, sorry, I'm co-applicant.
Oh, you're co-applicant. Okay, thank you. So please state your name and address for the record.
It's Joe Cordero.
Mhm.
I'm at 494 Victoria. I'll be working on the project. So just to a few words on the runoff. Yeah, the property breaks towards the north, towards the runoff ditch that's there already, basically along the line where this proposed build is going to go. So the water that would normally go south and towards Victoria, or towards Russell, and also go north and towards that ditch, will continue to do so as normal. And there'll be downspouts, and they'll be directed accordingly so that the water runs where it's intended to run, which is most of the property runs towards that swell. There's just a little bit at the fence, a couple meters that run south. So I don't foresee any issues with water, with any water onto somebody else's property.
Thank you. Joan?
Alicia, do you mind putting it up on the screen for us, please? Thank you.
Through the chair, Member John, would you just like an aerial view of the property, or did you want the photo of the concept
The
plan?
layout. Joan?
Just the layout.
Okay, just one moment.
Thank you.
Thank you. So while we wait for Alicia to get that up on the screen, from what I can hear is that there is a drainage plan, and that if there are any issues with the neighboring property after construction with pooling of water in a neighbor's yard, that would have to be addressed at the applicant's doing and expense. Brian?
Would it be fair to say that any landscaping and grading of the property would be addressed in the building permit?
I think that would be
Yes.
fair to say, yes.
So it's
Good point.
a little bit out of the scope of this committee.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we have the drawing, and we have Russell Street to the right. North is at the top of the page, if I'm not mistaken.
North is bottom left corner.
Okay, so it's the Russell you're on the west side of Russell, is that correct?
It would be the north, or sorry, it'd be the southeast side. I guess Russell runs basically 45 degrees to north. So
Okay.
So we're on the southeast side of Russell.
Okay.
The northeast side of Russell.
Okay.
It's confusing. But so at the end, where the minor variance is being applied there to the narrow end of the building, close to the fence, that right there is where the land breaks, and goes towards one neighbor and the other neighbor. The ditch towards the bottom of the page is where almost the entire lot is sloped towards. So where the break is in the property now is roughly in line with the ridge of the proposed build. So any water that would end up on the standing on Russell looking at the building, any water that would end up towards the right would have ended up there anyways, and any water towards the left would have ended up there anyways. But like I said, there'll be in the building plan, there'll be specifics on the downspouts and the direction of flow of the land and so on. So shouldn't be an issue to keep the water as it was.
Are there any other questions from the committee? I cannot see everyone, so.
Martin
I
here.
will- Martin, go ahead.
Yeah, overall, I have no problem with this. We go file by file, and the concerns about drainage are apt, but with the stormwater management drain right there and a new build, they can certainly make the swales fit, weeping tile, all that kind of stuff. I have no problem there. The original garage is far enough for emergency. And I think it's a very detailed plan. They are aware of the stormwater because of where the deck is. So I think they're doing due diligence. My only question is, it's unfortunate we didn't get, we have the foundation and the layout, but some kind of concept idea. Is this, so to the builder, is this going to be just a garage with no loft above, or is it going to be higher than the residence as roof line goes? Like, is it just strictly a garage?
Yeah, so
Because it's a very large garage. Sorry
Martin,
for
let him respond.
no, that's okay.
Go ahead,
that's okay.
Mr. Cordero.
The house, I mean, depending on I don't, it was a while ago now, so I don't recall exactly what was submitted as far as the plan, like as far as drawings go for this for the minor variance, but I thought there was an elevation view looking from the north, and of course a lot layout, but I have details here. The existing house roof, depending on where you measure it from, is about 15'9", so under 16 feet, and the measured from roughly the same spot, the garage addition to the peak would be about 17'9", so just under 18 feet, so roughly 2 feet, like within 2 feet of the house, as far as height goes. And the slope will be the same, 512 is the house. There'll be windows and trim and finishings, like to make it look nice and fit in with the residential area. And I don't think, there's no loft space with even if down the road somebody wanted to, a 512 is far too shallow to do anything up there. So it's just a straight ceiling inside. No above, like no second story or below grade storage at all, or access, basically. Aside from attic access for insulation and stuff, there's nothing else.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. I didn't mean to interrupt you when you were answering the
No,
question.
no,
The only
problem.
reason I was looking at it is in a residential area, and
Yes.
we always hear about shadowing and stuff like that. So there was more of a concern for the neighbor about how high it would be if it was going to affect them. But if it's only a foot, 2 feet, same as the existing house, no problem with that. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. No problem. My audio is a little delayed and fuzzy, so I probably didn't. You didn't interrupt me. I just wasn't sure where I was talking, so it's all good.
We're all good. We're all good. Thank you. Any other questions from the committee? I have a question. It would appear through the chair to the planner, through myself, that the garage ultimately will be larger than the dwelling. And is there any restrictions in our zoning that require the accessory structures to be less than the residential unit? My next question would be, what are the plans for this very large garage? Are there any restrictions as to, running a business out of it? Is that permitted? Yeah, I'm just going to ask the planner, and then certainly come to you, David.
Yep, no problem.
Victoria?
So it's considered under the R2 zoning, and it's under the 35% coverage. So with all of the buildings on the lot, it has to be within the 35%, which it is.
Okay.
And then regarding
Thank you.
if you have any other questions, sorry, I didn't hear the last part.
Yes, and this may be for the applicant. What is the purpose of this extremely large garage?
The purpose is I have a collection of classic cars and trucks. So I need to, for insurance reasons, I need to store them inside. I have Hagerty insurance, and they require a garage space for these cars to be and trucks to be stored in. So I need to build a building around them for to be built to be able to be insured by Hagerty.
Okay, thank you. And there won't be any oil change, like everything will meet the source water protection. You'll be complying with all of that. But how are you going to get back there? The driveway comes into the existing garage.
Through the existing garage door.
The existing garage, that's correct. The back wall of the existing garage will not exist, and it'll be open to the new build. In the lot layout, it shows a wall there with a door. But that's depicting like what's existing and what's going to be there. But in the building in the building drawings, that wall will not exist anymore. So basically, there's clear access for vehicles to come through, and then the garage, there's a garage door in the back, and that's just to pull vehicles in and out and rearrange them without having to come all the way through to the front. So that's the main access will be up the driveway and through the existing garage.
Okay, so this is not, thank you for clarifying, it's not an additional residential unit, and it's just store classic cars. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, I will now move on to ask if there's anyone present that would like to make a comment in support of the application. Is there anyone present who'd like to speak in opposition of the application? I'll ask the committee members if there's a requirement for further discussion. May I request a mover? And Martin, did you have a comment?
Oh, no, you just beat me to it. I moved to grant. I am sorry.
Okay, no problem. Do I have a seconder? Joan. Okay. Just a moment to go back up to the recommendation. So be it resolved that the Committee of Adjustment receive as information staff report PL 2024-073 regarding minor variance A10-24 by David Wells for 185 Russell Street, Dundalk, and approve the application for minor variance on the required rear yard subject to the following conditions. A, the attached garage does not exceed 5.5 meters in height and the existing shed be removed. The existing privacy fence is maintained along the southeast lot line and no vehicles be stored in the easement or front yard of the subject lands. And C, the attached garage complies with all remaining regulations in the residential type 2 zone and other applicable provisions in the zoning bylaw. Is there any further discussion? Any opposed? Seeing no hands, that is carried. The decision of the committee is to grant the application. The applicant shall have 2 years in which the conditions must be met. We'll move on to the next file. Thank you very much, Mr. Wells and Mr. Cordero, for joining us today.
Thank you.
The next file is A11-24 Victor Braniff. The purpose of the minor variance is to allow a one-story single-wide mobile home with 90 square meters of gross floor area on site with no basement or cellar. Current zoning permits a one-story single detached dwelling of 105 square meters, minimum gross floor area without a basement or cellar as a double-wide mobile home. A variance of 15 square meters gross floor area is required to permit the proposed one-story single-wide mobile home on a single detached dwelling. The effect of the minor variance would be to permit a one-story single-wide mobile home with 90 square meters of gross floor area with no basement or cellar on site. Location of the subject lands is concession 12, part lot 28, RP 17, R24 84, Part 1 and 2, Geographic Township of Egremont, Township of Southgate, the civic address of 032106 Southgate Side Road 3. Is there a request for deferral or withdrawal of the application, Alicia?
Through the chair, there have been none received.
Great, we can proceed. May I please have clarification that the sign was posted in accordance with the Planning Act?
Yes, through the chair, the sign was posted and notice was given in accordance with the Planning Act.
Thank you. I'll now ask Victoria Mance to review all comments received and present the staff report. Go ahead.
Thank you, Deputy Dubreen. Okay, so subject lands are located along Southgate Side Road 3 with a rural area on the former Proton Egremont town line. The property includes an existing 74.32 square meter storage shed that is being used as private storage for the property owners. The applicant is proposing a 92.16 square meter single wide mobile home. The mobile home is permitted under A1 zoning as a single detached dwelling on existing lots under 2 hectares. And meets the requirements of section 5.5 of the bylaw. The applicant meets the required setbacks, but not the minimum gross floor area of the dwelling, which is, it requires 105 square meters where there's no basement or cellar. To move on to some comments, Bell Canada, Township Fire Department, Historic Saugeen Métis, and Township Public Works Department, all of which had no concerns. The Township Building Department asked that the development will require applicable permits before construction. Engineering will be required for the structure due to the age and removal from one site to another. And documents required stating the building is in conformity with CSA standards. Grey County asked that a 30-meter setback be maintained from identified significant woodlands, otherwise have no concerns. And the Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority stated that the environmental protection zone be updated to better coincide with the Grey County hazardous lands for the property and to better reflect the site conditions. And from my understanding, there are no public comments that were received. And the proposed mobile home meets all other provisions in the R6 zoning that apply to single detached dwellings. With proposed conditions, the variance is considered minor, desirable for the appropriate development of the lands, and maintains the intent and purpose of the county and township official plan and zoning bylaw. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Victoria. Are there any questions? Is the applicant in attendance? And if so, would they care to present any comments in support of their application?
Hi, yeah, I am here. I'm hoping.
Are you the applicant?
Yes, I'm representing Victor. I'm his significant other. I did have one question. If it sounded like something that Victoria had said about the Saugeen setback. I'm not sure what, like, was there something that you had said there that sounded like we had to change?
No changes. No worries.
Awesome.
No.
Okay. You're doing a great job, Victoria. Thank you very much for helping us with this. And everyone else.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Janice McKay. Just for the record, that was Janice McKay. Do any of the committee members have any comments or questions? Joan?
Through the chair, I just have a comment. Is there any move afoot by Southgate to amend the footprint bylaw to accommodate the now popular mini homes? Because I noticed we're getting a lot of mini homes coming in. Just a comment, maybe not a question that can be answered just now, but I just thought of it. Like, and just a quick other one. The new build, will it affect any trees under the Grey County Forestry Management Plan? Because I was also looking at that too.
From my understanding, they asked for a 30-meter setback from the significant woodlands, which they meet. So there's no concerns there.
Thank you, Victoria.
And yet, Ken Melanson, you have your hand up. Welcome, Ken.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Just in terms of Member John's question, I just want to understand your question a bit more. Are you referring to tiny homes, perhaps? Is that where your question resides, or are you referring specifically to manufactured homes?
No, not tiny. I'm just referring to mini homes. I noticed that we have a lot of ones now where we have the homes are a little bit smaller, or we're having the what do they call it? Just 1 second. Let me. Gee. I have to look for it, Ken. I did have something here about the smaller homes that are coming in for bed and breakfast, or just the smaller homes that they're now using. There's two words. One is for something, another home, and it's two words. You should know that there's two different kinds of homes that I see coming in now.
Well, if you'd like, we can take the question offline and discuss it perhaps at council when you find the term.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how to answer the question, but certainly we're always looking at housekeeping amendments as things change in terms of, trends in terms of building form and things like that. But yeah, certainly if you find the term, I'd be happy to discuss it with you at council next week offline as well too.
Sure, thank you.
I thank you, and to Ken as well. In some municipalities, they're amending their zoning bylaw to allow for less square footage, where our zoning requires, 105 square meters. That perhaps we are looking down the road when we're amending our zoning bylaw, we'll be considering reducing that minimum square footage. I think that's where she's going. And then we also allow granny suites or garden suites and secondary units within certain zones. So I too had the question about, looking at that, but that's not a matter for the Committee of Adjustment at this time. Martin, you had your hand up.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Thank you, Barb. That's where I was going. Thank you for the.
Okay. All right. Super.
Thank you,
Martin?
Chair. When I was looking at this file, I see no problem with it. And I was glad when I read the building report, it mentioned because it's being moved from one site to another, there should be engineering. I looked at the date on the Fairmont Homes, and it's 2012, and it was built on the state. So I'm glad to see that it was going to be conforming to our building standards too. And that's all good to know when it's being moved. So I have no problem with this this application for those two reasons.
Thank you. Any other questions from the committee? One question, it being a single wide mobile home, I always find the term mobile kind of contradictory because the building code requires it to be met in relation to securing it to the ground and all of that. Victoria, that it's not a moving home. It is going to be a permanent structure.
Yes, correct. I believe there is going to be foundation for it.
Thank you. Are there any others in attendance that would like to speak in favor of this application? Is there anyone present that would like to speak in opposition of this application? I'll again ask the committee members if there's a need for any further discussion. Could I have a mover and seconder to grant, refuse, or defer the application? Martin, you will?
Chair, I will grant.
Move to grant. Have a seconder, please. Monica? Be it resolved that the Committee of Adjustment, yes, sorry, I'm going to read the resolution, the recommendation. That the Committee of Adjustment receive for information staff report PL 2024-074 regarding file A1124 Victor Braniff per 032106 Southgate Side Road 3 and 2 approve minor variance A11-24 to allow a reduced minimum gross floor area of 92.16 square meters for a mobile home dwelling without a basement or cellar subject to the following conditions. A, that detailed drawings be submitted for the proposed single-wide mobile home showing the location on a permanent footing or foundation, that a building permit is obtained and the home is in accordance with all remaining regulations in the zoning bylaw. B, that any commercial or industrial use of the existing building on site is not permitted and shall be recognized as discontinued, and that any vehicles, trailers, or similar appliances are not used by the applicant be removed if non-compliant with the property standards bylaw and other applicable bylaws or codes. C, the confirmation is received that private well and septic systems are provided suitable for the proposed dwelling. Any further discussion? Any opposed? Seeing none, the decision of the committee is to grant the application with the conditions as outlined. The applicant shall have 2 years in which the conditions must be met. Thank you. Okay, the notice of decisions from today's meetings will be signed electronically by members and distributed accordingly by the Planning Act. Anyone wishing to file a notice of appeal is encouraged to seek legal advice on your appeal rights, given recent changes to the Planning Act because of Bill 185. May I have a mover and seconder to adjourn the Committee of Adjustment at 10:40 a.m.? Monica and Joan? Any opposed?